Magic is women's work. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Just Another Struggling Writer, the beleaguered author's one-stop shop for commiseration and hopefully inspiration. My name is Carrie Scher, and I am just another struggling writer. Today is July 1st, and as such, I am doing a very much needed cozy reset. It's been a minute since I've done one of these, mostly because June was such a black hole. If you haven't seen one of my cozy resets before, basically what I like to do is I like to reflect on the month before, and then do a little bit of cleanup, and then take a look ahead at the month to come. No cleanup today. It is quite late at night, and I am looking at my bed with abject desire, but I do want to kind of fill you in on what's been going on this month and also talk a little bit about my aspirations for the beginning of the second half of this year. If you recall, I took my annual birthday staycation at the beginning of the month, which encompassed pretty much the first 10 days. And pretty early on in my time off, I realized and decided that if I truly wanted to rest and relax and give myself a chance to completely refresh my batteries and re-energize myself before I went back to my actual day job and everything else, that I should take time off from all of the demands on my time. And by that I mean writing, reading, content creation, anything that I viewed as an obligation. It was a vacation, and I decided I was going to treat it as such because there are times when those three things do feel kind of like a job in and of themselves. At the time, it sounded like a great idea because I could not know that later in the month I would have to take another almost 10 days off because I got horribly ill. So what happened is around the middle of the month, I developed a infection in my tooth that was very uncomfortable. And actually the nerve pain got so much that it was creating pain in my tongue and in like my jaw and giving me these really awful headaches. And as I was waiting for my dentist appointment, I got the stomach flu, and then developed shortly after that a sore throat, which I thought was from throwing up, but it turns out that it was actually COVID. So then I got to lay in bed for 5 days, and then my partner got sick, and then my daughter got COVID. And then late last week, I had to get a root canal on my infected tooth. So it has been kind of a shit show the last 10 days. And between the discomfort of my toothache and the stomach flu, and then having the complete brain fog that COVID gives you, pretty much nothing got done. Not a lot of reading, definitely no writing, and obviously no content creation either. And while there's nothing that I could do about that, obviously I can't help it if I'm sick, and obviously I can't help it if my partner gets sick and needs care, and my daughter gets sick and needs care, and the fact that I do have to go back to work and actually, hold down a job because I took so much time off between the dentist appointments and the vacation and everything else. It just created the perfect storm of circumstances where nothing was going to get done. And I just have to be okay with that. I'm not, but here we are. Thankfully, today feels like the first day where we're kind of getting back to normal. Both me and my partner are back at work. My daughter is feeling much better. And everything is kind of starting to settle back into a routine, which I am someone who needs and thrives on routine. And when a wrench gets thrown in the routine, I feel lost and just kind of out of sorts. And because I am someone who needs to feel productive, to feel good about my day, that is so important. I got some writing done today. I got some reading done today, doing some filming. So today feels like the first day where I'm truly back, and just in time on July 1st, on a Monday, looking towards the end of 2024. So reflecting back on June, there really isn't too much to talk about because I just didn't get that much done. But there were some successes. I did a pretty sizable book haul with my partner. That was really fun. I unhauled, I think, 5 books. I can't remember what they are now. I made some progress on my world building for my writing project, about 3 pages of notes since the beginning of June. And I read 3.5 books. Yeah, actually 3 and a third books. And I got a lot of cross-stitching done while I was in bed. I don't know if you haven't had COVID or if you haven't had this strain. I wish more people would talk about the brain fog that you get when you have COVID, because when I was laying in bed those 5 days, I literally did not have the brain space to do anything else. I couldn't even listen to an audiobook. I tried, and I would listen for 2 or 3 minutes and realize that I didn't comprehend anything that was said. And I definitely didn't really even have the energy to hold a book in front of my face. And when I did, I just couldn't comprehend it. And so I laid in bed and I did cross stitching. I'm working on a new project with my cross stitching, and I watched a lot of Olympic trials. It's not that I accomplished nothing. It's just that the only thing I really accomplished was the thing that required literally no brain space, because the pattern I'm working on in my cross stitching is printed on the fabric. So I didn't even have to look at a pattern. I was just mindlessly going, and I got a lot done. And that's pretty much June in a nutshell. I do have some favorites. My favorite book that I read in June was Foundry Side. My favorite video game was Baldur's Gate 3. My partner bought it for me. I put my favorite TV shows was the Olympic trials. I don't know if that counts, but I'm counting it. And my favorite non-media pastime was cross stitching. Not really much else to say in terms of my favorites. And that's pretty much June in a nutshell. Again, not super impressive, nothing to write home about. A month I'm definitely looking forward to leaving behind. And today is July 1st. It is the halfway point of the year. I don't think it's exactly the halfway point, but it's, for me, the easiest way to mark the halfway point of the year. Now is the time to get my shit back together and get back to work and get back to my habit forming and my creative ambitions and everything. Today is a good day to get started. And so that's what I'm going to do. Looking ahead to specifically the month of July, my major writing goal for July is to finish world building. Completely finish all of the setup, all of the world building pockets that I still need to flesh out, and answer any questions about the lore, the magic system, the secret government agency, the cult, the characters, all of that. I want all of that to be completely done by the end of July, so that on August 1st, I can start finally doing the first draft of my outline. Yes, I do first drafts of outlines, and I will get into all that when we get there. I'm not going to rush myself or slow myself or hold myself to an arbitrary start date like November 1st, for example. I am going to continue to work at the pace. I am going to, at least this is my goal, work at a steady pace. And when the time is right, when I've got this world building done, when I've got a final outline ready, then I will start drafting. If that's November 1st, I'll take advantage. If that's January 1st, God, I hope I don't take that long to do an outline. But if it's January 1st, so be it. If it's October 23rd, then that will be the day that I start. But the short-term goal is to get the world building finished. I've done a lot of really, really great work. I've developed a lot of really great ideas that I didn't have before. I talked a little bit about this in my writing vlog. I'm answering so many questions that I didn't even know that I had, because I was so laser focused on just the plot. And everything was about moving the plot forward. It wasn't about building a complete world or complete characters or a complete setting. So in the near term, it's going to be about answering those questions and feeling really secure that if something comes up while I'm drafting, I'm going to know the answer, or at least have enough of a framework where I could come up with an answer pretty easily. So that's my biggest goal for writing in terms of writing for July. And of course, part of that is continuing to vlog the process. I cannot believe the support that my writing vlogs have gotten. They are by far the more popular videos that I have made, which I would not have expected. And I love that. I love knowing that there is support for my own personal journey to fucking finish a novel. And I just feel so warm and happy knowing that, even if it's small, because I am still such a tiny baby creator, just seeing those numbers in comparison to some of the others, it just it really is motivating for me. I am very, very much motivated by both public support and public accountability. So again, writing, yes, developing the world, finishing the world building, but also vlogging the process. And maintaining that network of public support and accountability. Another goal that I would like to start up again is journaling. I used to journal every single day. Having a journal where I can write down my thoughts throughout the day and ideas and, just like even a to-do list or video ideas or thoughts on the book that I'm reading. I think I want to get back into doing that and maintaining a journal. So I got this very, very nondescript black journal, and for the last couple of days I have been carrying it around with me, even on the weekend when I'm like in the house, and just using it to scratch out ideas that come to me or my thoughts on the story that I'm writing or the story that I'm reading or whatever. And we'll see if this maintains. It's only been a couple of days, but it has been kind of helpful in keeping me on task and reminding me. I've been doing my daily tarot draw, writing that in there, as well as like a daily affirmation, just that one that I write for myself. And, again, just like a to-do list. Another big goal for this month is to get back on top of my reading. I am now 4 books down of my pace for my yearly reading goal, which is 75 books. If you recall, last year I think I read 36 total in the entire year. And I realized close to the end of the year that I did have the time to read. I could do it, and I just had to have sufficient motivation and desire. And so I set myself a goal which I thought was extremely achievable in about 6 books a month. And for the first couple of months, I smashed that. And then because of the reading slump that I was going through in April and May, and then the shit show that was June, I am now 4 books down. So I really need to get back on top of it. So to that end, we're going to do my TBR for this month right now together. And for my TBR, I have decided to do what I did last month and make it a completely random draw with some caveats. The first one is that I haven't actually updated my TBR mimic for my most recent book haul. So there's about 20 books that just aren't in there, and I just don't have the energy to update it right now. And in a way, that's probably for the best, because I need to be reading some of the older books on my TBR instead of constantly adding new ones on top for me to read. And plus, like half of that book haul anyway was one series. The other exception is I have 3 books that I've decided I am going to read this month separate from my TBR. The first one is I'm going to finish Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. I got to about 30% before I got sick. And after I started feeling better, I kind of set it aside to focus on One Dark Window because that was the easier book to finish. And it was. I managed to finish it. But now that it's the new month and a new week, I'm going to try and get that one finished. I'm about 30% of the way. And before I got sick, I was reading it pretty quickly. So I'm going to try and knock that one out. The second one that I want to read is Gideon the Ninth. I started this back in April, and I just fell off because I was not really feeling the physical reads. Lately, I have been wanting to have a book in my hands. My only problem with this is that I can't decide if I should restart it or not. I feel like I have a pretty good memory of the goings on, but I also feel like if I don't restart it, I'm not going to feel as connected to the story. I'm about 130 pages in, according to this bookmark. So I'm not really sure where I fall on that just yet. I'm going to finish Rage of Dragons first and kind of sleep on it and decide when it comes time. The third book that I am going to definitely try and read this month is Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb, and this is a reread. I read it in 2018 or 19, I think, and I gave it 5 stars. I loved it so much. And I have been meaning to reread it for a couple of months now. Because it has been so long since I originally read it, I want to refresh myself on it before I get into the next book in this series. I read the first chapter over the weekend and a little bit today, and I still love this book. I know this is kind of divisive, like you either love or you hate it, and I'm definitely one of the ones who love it. I love the setting. I love the way that she writes. Fits. I don't know. This is a book that feels like it was explicitly for me. So those are 3 books that I definitely want to get to. And then on top of that, I am going to draw 6 random books. So last month I drew 6 random books and only ended up reading 2 of them and started Rage of Dragons. So not quite as successful in terms of my random draws, but as you know by now, there were extenuating circumstances. And besides, I just love doing my random draw. It is just so exciting and fun, and I don't need an excuse to build my TBR the way I want to build it. So if you are familiar with my channel, you know what this is. This is my TBR Mimic. Inside there are scraps of paper, and on each scrap of paper is a number. Every book in my owned library that's physical, Kindle, and audiobook is in a spreadsheet and corresponds to a number in this Mimic, except for the new ones. We already talked about that. And I do this because it truly randomizes the books that I draw. This spreadsheet is not really filled out in any specific way. It's kind of by the date that it was purchased, but it's not in alphabetical order or anything. And so it truly does make this experience completely random, double blind. And I find that just to be really fun and exciting, and kind of inspires me to read books that I may not have otherwise picked for my TBR. So that's the deal with the Mimic. And without further ado, let's just go ahead and pick the first book. So let's get this guy down here. Okay. This is book number 20, which means it's pretty close to the top of the list. Okay, so a book I know nothing about. This is The Children of Gods and Fighting Men by Shauna Lawless. I don't know literally anything about it. It was probably one of those books that I just was like for 99 cents on a BookBub sale, and I just bought it for fun. But let's find out a little bit more about this book. The first in a gripping new historical fantasy series that intertwines Irish mythology with real-life history, The Children of Gods and Fighting Men is the thrilling debut novel by Shauna Lawless. They think they've killed the last of us. 981 AD. The Viking king of Dublin is dead. His young widow, I'm not even going to attempt to say that, something very Celtic, has ambitions for her son and herself, but Ireland is a dangerous place and kings tend not to stay kings for long. This woman also, Gormflaith, look, I made the attempt after all. Gormflaith also has a secret. She is one of the Fomorians, an immortal race who can do fire magic. She has kept her powers hidden at all costs, for there are other immortals in this world. There are a lot more Irish names in here that I'm not even going to attempt to read. But basically what I'm getting out of this is a historical fantasy based on Ireland and has some Viking elements, and that could be really good. I was really interested in reading A Fate Inked in Blood because of the Viking element, and while I'm not hugely a fan of historical fantasy, I can be persuaded. So that is not a bad way to start at all. And again, a book that I definitely would not have chosen for my TBR if I was constructing it myself. So that's book number 1. Number 2. Let's get one off the bottom here. Okay. This one is kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum, a late one, number 95. Okay, so another book I don't know anything about. I don't even know where it came from, but this is The Scarlet Odyssey by C.T. Ruizzi. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know how I came into possession of this book. So let's see. Magic is women's work. War is men's. But in the coming battle, none of that will matter. Men do not become mystics, they become warriors. But 18-year-old Sallow has never been good at conforming to his tribe's expectations. For as long as he can remember, he has loved books and magic in a culture where such things are considered unmanly. Despite it being sacrilege, Sallow has worked on a magical device in secret that will awaken his latent magical powers. And when his village is attacked by a cruel enchantress, Sallow knows that it is time to take action. So yeah, it looks kind of African inspired, maybe Middle Eastern, but which I'm always a big fan of. Pretty chunky. Another pretty good selection. This is the joy and the beauty of the random draw. Like, I literally know nothing about these books, and now I am tasking myself with reading them. So let's go for number 3, shall we? Going to the bottom. All right. Okay. Now we have a super recent one, 142. Okay, so the next book I'm not going to talk too much about because it is Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross, and I have not heard anything about the St. Martin's Press boycott being lifted. So I'm going to read it, and I'll withhold my thoughts until I hear otherwise. All right, so here, ooh, these guys are like jumping out of this mimic. They all want to be read. I don't blame them. We're going to pick one over here, kind of off to the side. Okay, another kind of recent one, 129. Oh, I've already read this one. It's Piranesi by Susanna Clark. I think I gave it 3.5 stars. It's a great book to read in bed on a rainy Saturday, which is exactly what I did. I finished it in one go. It's very charming, but not super like exciting. That's the other part of this, is that sometimes when I just randomly read a book off my TBR, it obviously doesn't get taken out of the mimic unless I draw it. So there are books in here that I've already read. And there are some that I've unhauled even, but what are you gonna do? That's the magic. Okay. Another super duper recent one. This is 158. 158 is another book that I probably would not have picked for myself. It is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I realized earlier in the spring that cozy, low stakes, just vibes books aren't actually for me. I kind of hate that because I really thought that they would be. But after attempting to read a couple of other books kind of in a similar vein, I just, and not enjoying those experiences, I have always kind of thought that I might be one of the party poopers on this book. But when I found it at Half Price Books for $8, I was like, I'm going to go ahead and buy it. So that's why it's even on this list. And, you know, it could just be a nice palate cleanser. I've got a lot of thick books, some heavier topics, and this is a pretty quick read, less than 300 pages. And I know, obviously, like the whole conceit behind it is that it's very cozy, about a female orc warrior who retires and opens a coffee shop and has a cute little romance with like this little succubus assistant that she has. And again, it could just be a really nice palate cleanser. Who knows? It may turn out to break the streak of cozy books that I have not liked. Okay, so I know that I said I was going to do 6 more books in addition to the 3 that I already picked. But I'm looking at these guys and I'm thinking about the 2 ebooks that I have, plus I am still slowly plodding my way through The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie on audio from last month. And I think I'm actually going to call it here. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus The Rage of Dragons, plus The Children of Gods and Fighting Men. That's 7 books and an audiobook that I may or may not finish this month. I feel like that's a pretty good, ambitious, like some of these are really thick. I know Gideon the Ninth is almost 500 pages. Assassin's Apprentice is over 400 pages. And I've got at least 400 pages more of Rage of Dragons. I'm content with this. So this is my lineup of books. A lot of things that I would not have chosen, but books that could be really, really good and really inspire me to continue to fight my way out of this reading slump that was unfortunately extended due to illness. I'm excited. I think this could be a really good reading month. I just have to stay on top of my shit. So that, I believe, is going to wrap up this cozy reset. It was much needed for me to kind of wash my hands of June and get myself excited and hyped for July and by extension the second half of this year. So thank you so much for watching. Which one of these books do you think I should tackle first? Do you think I should restart Gideon the Ninth? I know it's I've heard that it's very, very complicated and that if you take too much time away, you're going to miss stuff because the author doesn't really hold your hand in the storytelling. But I do feel like I still have a pretty good grasp of what I remember. Would you restart it? I started reading it in April and it is now the beginning of July. Let me know in the comments. I would love to chat about all of this stuff. It has been one of the joys and one of my unspoken goals in creating this channel, which is to make more friends, more writing and reading related friends, because I don't really have many of those offline. In my next video, I will be bringing you again delayed, again a little bit too short writing vlog. I hope you look forward to it, and I will see you then.